Today's lesson is titled Using Mean, and we're going to be using algebra to work with like averaging numbers. So we need to check our skills first and make sure that we know how to average numbers. We're not doing like mean, median, mode. We're not doing all of that. We're just talking about finding the mean. So the check your skills example says Mrs. Myers took a poll of her second period class to see how many pets her students have at home. What is the average number of pets that the students have? Now, hopefully you remember this, but to average numbers, so if we're averaging, you add the numbers and divide by how many there were. Okay, so in other words, I'm going to add all of these numbers, and then I'm going to divide that number. So let's find that number first. I'm going to use my calculator here, and just be real careful you punch them all in correctly. So someone had 3 pets, 5 pets, 4 plus 5 plus 2 plus 6. Someone's a loser, had none. Just kidding. Whoa, someone lives on a farm and has 15 pets. And we got 1, 1, 3, and 3. Okay, so 48 is what I get when I add. To average, you divide by how many digits or how many like people we're talking about here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 students in my second period class. So if I do 48 divided by 12, the average is 4 pets. That's a lot. I don't know, that's probably not the average for every class, 4 pets per person. So remember, that's how you average. You add them up and you divide by how many numbers there are. Okay, so you guys learned that honestly in like elementary school, how to average numbers. Today we need to step it up a notch and use mean, averaging numbers, with algebra. Okay, so that kind of puts it at our level here in high school. So the first example says, suppose in history class you got an 80%, 93%, and a 91% on your first exams. What grade do you need to get on your next exam to have a 90% exam average? Define a variable and write an equation. Okay, so remember, to define the variable, you look at the question. What grade do you need to get? So let's call like G the grade. And specifically, it's the grade on my next exam. Okay, I need to write an equation using this mean idea and the numbers that they gave me. So let's figure out what the average we want to have is. We want to have a 90% average. So you guys, you want this to equal 90. Okay, so the average you want, set it equal to that number. Then think about how you average numbers. I know that I need to add all the numbers up and divide by how many scores there were. So it's going to be a giant division problem. And I know I got an 80 on the first test. I need to add that to the second test. And the third test was 91. Realize there's actually 4 tests going on here. I don't know what I got on the 4th exam, but I have to include it in there so I can solve for it. So I need to add in G for that next grade. So total, people will make the mistake and say that there's 3 tests, but there's actually 4 that we're talking about. So I need to divide this by 4. Okay, so I've set it up. Now I just need to solve it. So I need to get G by itself. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by multiplying by 4. Because I know when everything's being divided by 4, we need to multiply by 4. And at the same time, I'm actually going to combine those numbers right there. So let's see, 80 plus 93 plus 91. That's 264 plus G equals 90 times 4, which is 360. Okay, so I kind of did 2 things at once. Hopefully you followed that. Now I just need to subtract 264. And I need to get a 96 on my next exam to have a 90% average. I don't know, maybe your parents ground you if you don't have an A- average on tests. That'd be pretty harsh, but you never know. All right. Pretty useful thing to know how to do here. The second example and the last example is about basketball. So it says John really wants to set a basketball record for his school this year. To do that, he needs an average total of 22 points per game. So far, he has scored 15 points, 32 points, whoa, that's a lot, 28, and 11. How many points does John need to score in his next game to reach his goal? Okay, so again, to define the variable, look at the question. How many points? So I'm going to say P equals points. And specifically, it's points in his next game. All right, let's get an equation going. I told you that it needs to equal his goal, which he wants to have an average of 22 points per game. If it's a mean problem, it's a giant division problem. I'm going to take the scores that he's already gotten, or the points I should say, 15 plus 32 plus 28 plus 11, and I want to include that next game in there. Even though I don't know how many points he's got, I need to include the P in there. So total, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 5-point values I'm talking about. Don't say 4 because you see 4 here. Include the P and there's 5. Okay, so let's multiply both sides by 5. So 22 times 5 is 110. I'm going to do the same thing, and I can combine all of these. And that's 86 plus P equals 110. And then I just subtract 86. And what is it? He's got to score 24 points in his last game to set the school record.